No, no buzz. A Chesapeake Book Club. Welcome to 2024, where I started out the year reading The Yellow Wallpaper by Charlotte Perkins Gilman. One of my favorite stories of all time. This is a 73 edition published by the Feminist Press associated with CUNY in 1973, with an afterword by Elaine R. Hedges. No idea who she is. Her afterword's interesting. It's a lot of biography, which I didn't love or hate. It was an interesting sort of. It seemed like it was positioned as a way to sort of reclaim or claim Gilman as or Perkins Gilman as a feminist writer, which was like not a thing I was aware had happened, because of course that was the condition under which I read her in the first place. Well, I read her in like high school. I read this story specifically in high school. I've not read Herland or any of her other stuff, which I'm very curious about, but have not read it. But there's some cool, weird little history in this particular version, and it looks like it came from 73. You can't see that in this lighting. You can't see the foxing. You can't see the mold on that paper. I forgot about the fungus in this. There's like just a touch of fungus in the Yellow Wallpaper in a way that, like, yeah. I have loved this story since I was a child. There are a bunch of different things. I think I told a person recently, like, there's like a small moment in it where a thing I've like always remembered, but like reading it this time and just being trans, I like the moment where she looks out the window and sees the woman creeping, or the woman creeping, and the women creeping, and then the many, many, many women creeping through the garden, was like a really affecting description of dissociation to me. Yeah, story about a woman who's married to a physician who does not believe her when she says that she feels bad, because there's no sort of scientifically observable reason for it. And so they go up to a little estate and they settle up in a room that has yellow wallpaper in it that she hates. She so hates that wallpaper. But then she kind of likes it. But then she hates it. And then she really, really likes it. And then she really, really hates it. And then she gets out of it. It's a phenomenal story. It's a phenomenal story about, in the way that this particular edition argues, like, that is fundamentally about the like oppression of women by men, specifically like their husbands, their doctors, etc. It's a phenomenal story about madness in the way that it is not written in the Baroque language that we would end up sort of like landing on as a way to describe madness, especially like, sort of post like Lovecraft and in my circles, like in the genre circles, like the weird fiction way. This is all very terse sentences. It's like, what is the first line? It is very seldom that mere ordinary people like John and myself secure ancestral halls for the summer. A colonial mansion, a hereditary estate, I would say a haunted house, and reach the height of romantic felicity. But that would be asking too much of fate. Like, it's not written, not like it wasn't written in the 1890s, but it's not written like a Charlotte Bronte wrote it, right? Those two sentences I read, those are two separate paragraphs. Like, the text is broken up. It feels natural to read. Not natural. It feels like it feels bite-sized in ways. Like, here is a sentence that means a thing. Here is a sentence that means a thing. Here is a paragraph that is a whole paragraph. Let's go on to the next thing. And I think that's extremely helped by the way that Perkins Gilman, frames it as a story that is diary entries, which makes the ending very weird, um, but not in a way that like breaks it for me at all. Her creeping over and over and walking over her husband was a thing I like remembered having read before, and I went into this thinking like, is that gonna break because of the framing of it being sort of diary entries that she's sort of writing on the sly because like she really wants to write but she can't because her husband says that that's what exhausts her, and she talks about that over and over, but like I don't know, it sort of breaks the frame in a way that I think still works extremely well for me, and I think is analyzable in a way that I don't think I can quite do at this particular moment in time, as most things aren't. Yeah, I don't know. Weird thing to jump into and be like, hey, what a good way to start the year. That's what I did. That's how I felt. You fight about it? Um, I thought that was a pretty funny joke. I don't have any like specific polls. It is a story about, I don't know, maybe part of what it is like as a this is a funny one. As a person who needed glasses when I was like in the first grade, I think I've had them since the first grade. Um, One of my very earliest remembered pastimes was staring up at like the stucco ceiling above my childhood bedroom, without my glasses on, like before I put my glasses on, which meant before, getting out of bed and preparing for the day. I would just stare, or after taking my glasses off and going to bed. Um, I would stare at the stucco ceiling in my house and sort of like count points, or try to count how many depressions there were. Try to apophenia my way into um, like faces or dragons or whatever it was, child brain. Um, and so maybe that's part of it, right? Is like I deeply, deeply identify with like staring at a thing, trying to identify a pattern, a thing that I know is not it's not intentionally patterned, and having that be a really sort of meditative experience for me. I don't use that word. I don't meditate. I don't have that sort of relationship with my own brain in most situations. Um, but I have that very clear memory, and so being able to like really deeply comprehend the feeling of being sort of forced to lie in bed, because obviously I'm in first grade, I'm like whatever, 6, and I don't set my bedtime. I don't set when I have to get out of bed. Other people do. And so finding patterns, finding meaning, finding distraction in, for me it was a ceiling. For the narrator, it is a bit of wallpaper. It's just deeply understandable to me. It is resonant with certain memories that I have, and using that as a kickoff to do a thing which I talked about a little bit in the Victorian Ghost Stories episode of this, whatever, where like I just have a fundamental appreciation. It's probably actually traceable back to this story more than anything else, of like, give me a spooky story about that is very clearly Victorian, and I'm probably in. That's probably because of the Yellow Wallpaper. I had not thought about that until I just said this. So theory unlocked. Um, yeah, like I said, I don't know what to say. That's I didn't really think about that until I was just looking at it, but you can see up in the upper corner of this, the upper left-hand corner of the book, which is there. It says $4.50 printed on the cover, which, now that I'm thinking about it, this being printed in '73, I guess maybe this is a I mean, it's certainly not a first edition, but like, there's no way this is not from the '70s. 450 is like pretty steep for just a copy of the Yellow Wallpaper, with like, you know, really like generous spacing and like an afterword that is maybe longer than the story itself. um, a fascinating idea, a fascinating little thing. Yeah, the feminist press at the City University of New York, distributed by the Talman Company. Um, there is an ISBN, a full. It's not a 978, but there's a full, yeah, like a full ISBN printed on the back cover. There's no barcode, obviously, but like maybe. Okay, no, it says first edition 18th printing. So okay, so maybe this is as late as the late '70s when this particular one was printed. Maybe the early '80s even. Um, yeah, I don't have a lot to say about this because it just means too much to me. Hey, hey. Thanks for not watching.